Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our webinar this afternoon. My name is Colin Wilson. I'm the Director of Key Business Advisors, and we're here to go through a webinar this afternoon, which is all about keeping employees engaged in 2021. So, unfortunately, we're in this stage 4 lockdown again. So our goal today is to keep this as interactive and as motivating as possible, given the situation. And very soon I'll have Allyson, Fletcher, who will be joining, and we can't wait to go through this webinar. So what we'll be covering today's webinar is the following. Number 1 is understanding the cost of staff turnover. Number 2, always keep your employees engaged. Ways to keep employees engaged this year, getting that right balance with your staff from working from home and in the office. And at the moment, this latest lockdown in Victoria has totally changed that around. The importance of staff development and the value of performance discussions and incentives. Okay, so a little bit about myself. We've been 12 years experience, Key Business Advisors been going. We're all about helping businesses, small, medium businesses mainly, in helping through all the different aspects of business improvement, HR, sales, and strategy. And I have with me today Allyson Fletcher, brings over 10 years experience. He's absolutely fantastic for our organisation, for our customers. Allyson, are you there? You might just have to unmute yourself. Can you hear me, Allyson? Hello? I'll continue on. There you go.
Can you hear
Beautiful.
Me?
Yes, I can. Yep.
Sorry, my headphones aren't working.
That's all right. Well, we've started the webinar, and that's okay. That's just part of life. All right. So just a bit of housekeeping with the webinar. For those of you who are registered for the webinar, you'll get to see and hear everything about what the webinar is all about today. For those who are that have missed out on the webinar, they will receive a copy of a recording of the webinar as well, including the slide deck. Everyone is on mute, and I'm more than happy to take some questions throughout the webinar as we go through the webinar today. All right, Key Business Advisors. We've been going now for just over 12 years, actually nearly 13 years. We just clocked over. Our mission is all about, taking business from good to great. That's what we do, and it's all about, building that level 5 leadership in companies. And our purpose is we love to take our customers on a journey to help them improve their business through all aspects of employee engagement and performance. So we've certainly been challenged over the last 12, 18 months with this COVID, but we all need to press on. There are 3 main areas that our business specialises in, and one of the things that I love is our business advice and strategy, and it's more around what's your sales, your people strategy within the business and process. We offer the HR advice and support. We have a team of professional advisors, and I do a lot of professional sales training and customer service training to help small, medium-sized businesses grow through all aspects of the business. So we've got a great webinar today. I can't wait to get started. And then our first topic is about understanding the cost of staff turnover. So, this is huge especially for a small business. And I was talking to somebody this morning, having a conversation, and if you've got 10 staff and you lose one, well, you've lost 10%. You've got 10% turnover within your business. But it's a huge cost to business, and it's really hard and really difficult if you've lost employees and then you've got to replace them. And if you lose those employees and replace them again, you start to lose some of the momentum of what you're trying to achieve. So that's what we're all about, trying to engage employees and get them as motivated as possible to come and do what the job is about. So Allyson, the cost, understand the cost of a quality staff member leaving, and it does happen in businesses. And we lost, unfortunately, Stephanie, who was with us for 7 years as our HR manager. She's moved on, but one of the good things is about building that depth in the business so it doesn't affect the business too bad, which is what we've gone through of recent. But what's your understanding of the cost of losing a quality staff member?
Yeah, it's high, and I don't think that a lot of employers realise how much it actually costs. They might just look at their day-to-day wages without taking into consideration everything else As you said, Stephanie was with us for over 7 years, so we had to pay out, and depending on what state you're in as well, obviously, because long service leave legislation is not the same nationally. It does change depending on the state that you work from. But being in Victoria, we had to pay out her prorated long service leave amount. And it's not even just that side of it as well. You also have to take into consideration your rehiring costs. And that would mean placing an job ad, whether it's in Seek or LinkedIn or wherever you might use both or more, and the time that you spend to actually go recruiting for that new team member. And then you've got the on costs when you do find someone. So the training of the new team member as well is always, it's never thought of from a lot of businesses, but that takes time. So you've got someone actually doing the training, and so that's taking them away from their day-to-day work. So that makes their productivity less than what it would normally be as well. And of course, there's the loss of intellectual property as well, which people wouldn't necessarily consider when they're calculating the cost of a staff member.
Yeah, and I guess, and the productivity, as you said, we've got to share with another staff member's got to train them, and I think that's fine. It does happen in business, and staff turnover is a thing of businesses today. But we don't want to lose quality staff members. We want to hang on to them as best as possible. And I think for a small business, 7 years is a long time. I think it's a good outcome, especially in today's world where we know that there's a high turnover in small businesses. So yeah, it's really, really important, I think, to make sure that we just got to look at those true costs. And I think what we'll get into is how do we prevent some of those quality staff members from not leaving as well. And then Allyson, if there's a bad dismissal, so we're an outsourced HR business and we have a massive portfolio of clients that our whole team look after, but occasionally we get the bad dismissal, and we know that one's come through over the weekend through an incident of last week. But you've got a couple of case studies there, so if you want to take us through these two case studies, I think that would be fantastic.
Yeah, sure, no worries. So the first case study I've got here was for an unfair dismissal, and it was an employee by the name of Colin versus poultry harvesters. I put the Fair Work case number there if anyone wanted to have a look at the greater detail. But in a nutshell, she was a machine operator at a chicken harvesting company, and she normally worked the night shift. So she normally started at midnight and finished in the morning the following day. She received a phone call on Melbourne Cup Day to ask if she wasn't rostered on for that day, and to ask if she could work that evening. So that was fine. She did have a couple of drinks during the day, and she decided that she didn't want to drive to work. And while she was at work, she fell asleep. When she was asleep, the machine had smothered 50 chickens. So she phoned the employer, had a phone call. Then the employer came to the work premises about 45 minutes later, and then there was another follow-up phone call the following day. Now, this became an unfair dismissal because there was a dispute around when she was actually terminated, and that's really important for people to know. So when you do terminations, it's critical to make sure that you note when it happens, because this case fell in favour of the employee because the court had believed her version of events rather than the employer's, and it was found that the employer was trying to say that she had been dismissed the following afternoon, whereas she was convinced that she had been dismissed after that initial phone call and then the follow-up session when the employer came. So when it went to court, again, the judge for the case found in favour of her, and the employer, the remedy was she was made to be paid 6 weeks' pay plus superannuation as well. There was no dispute that she'd been drinking. There was none of that. But what the dispute was around the fact of when she was actually dismissed. So even though people can deserve to be dismissed, and in this case, you would argue that perhaps she did deserve to be dismissed because she killed chickens and she was operating heavy machinery after drinking alcohol during the day. However, because the employer did not outline exactly when she was dismissed, they fell short there. So it's just be very mindful of when you do dismissals, if you do them.
And Allyson, I think yeah, and also I think it's they just haven't followed the process right. And that's what's generated an unfair dismissal. So an unfair dismissal
Correct.
is somebody who thinks they've been treated unfairly, and then they lodge a claim against the employer to say, look, I've been unfairly dismissed. So she was probably, by the sounds of it, should have been dismissed, but it just wasn't done right. And I think, look, I just want to point out there that we're in some really tough times at the moment in Victoria, and there's a lot of pressure on small business owners. And if you are thinking about getting rid of somebody, rather than react to a reaction, and you need to follow that right process. So make sure you get some advice. Okay, maybe you can take us through the second one, Allyson, the case study, an adverse action claim. Yeah.
This one, I just wanted to give an example that there's different types of termination claims that could be made against any business. So this case was against an employee by the name of Robinson against his employer, Western Union Business Solutions. And he was terminated. He was on, he had not attended work for over 7 months. He was on personal leave and due to his mental illness. He refused independent medical assessment from the business, and he couldn't confirm to the business when he was going to be returning. So as a result, Western Union terminated his employment. He put in a claim, and it is being rejudged soon. He put in a claim saying that he was terminated unlawfully and hence the adverse action. And the adverse action was against his mental disability. So he's claimed mental disability, which is under the general protections. It's one of the general protections listed under the Act, that an employer cannot terminate you for certain reasons, and disability is one of them. So he was terminated because of that. The judge found in favour of him that he was terminated due to the mental disability, but this has since been appealed. And obviously because of last year, with all the courts being backed up because of COVID, there hasn't been a finalised version of this case as well. So yeah, just be mindful. Again, it's all about following processes and making sure that you dot your I's and cross your T's and do everything you can to avoid any situation similar to this one.
Yep, and I can't stress the fact that professional advice on what to do is what it's about, making sure you just get that advice because it's so important.
What I might add in there as well, Cole, is also if there is an adverse action claim made against you, it's a general protections, there's no cap on the remedy that a court could find in favour unless that they'll use similar cases. But with unfair dismissal, there is a cap. So with adverse action, there's no cap. So just be mindful of that. It could be costing you a lot of money.
Yep. And I think that's the thing, like for the sake of a one phone call from a professional company, whether it be us or somebody else, it's just worth that call because, you might pay a few $100 for that advice up front, but it might save you 20 grand or 30 grand in the long run. So yeah. Okay, our next topic is about understand the true cost of staff replacement. And we talked about a quality staff member before, but Allyson, if you could take us through the direct costs and indirect costs, that'd be great.
Yeah, sure. So direct costs we've got written down here, and it's not an exhaustive list, but it's annual leave loading, leave entitlements, any commission payments, recruitment costs, fees for medical exams and police checks, etc. So that would be, so the first part is what you're paying out to the outgoing employee, and the last lot will be for the incoming employee as well. So, and then we've got the indirect costs as loss of productivity, training costs, in-house hiring costs, admin costs, which, time spent, etc., etc.
Yeah. So again, the goal of what we try and do for every one of our clients out there is to get that if I can say it, that engine room going, which is around, creating a great culture, a great environment, and even the most stressful times that we're in right now for us Victorians, you've still got to keep that momentum going and keep staff focused. I can't echo enough the importance of mission, vision, and values, setting goals and objectives, and keep that clear communication going for your team to try and keep them engaged in your business. Okay, so which is brings us on to our topic 2, which is around ways to keep your employees engaged this year. So, I think when you and I sat down and did this preparation, Allyson, we never thought, we knew there might be some spikes, but we never thought we'd be back in stage 4 lockdown that we're in right now. And I think that's it, Allyson. You just have to laugh, right? And run with the punches. That's what we need to do. But the importance of setting goals and objectives with the team, and this is my baby. This is the thing that I'm all about. It all provides that clear focus and direction of where you want your team to go. And I think, many of us last year went through this process of, survival, and we tried our very, very best. And somehow we've got to have this optimistic out view that we've got to get back to business, we've got to get focused, and we've just got to give that clear direction to get our team going, because a lot of us small business owners, some did very, very well out of COVID last year, some did okay, and some lost a fortune. So we, for those guys who did okay or lost a fortune, we want some of that income back, that revenue back for this year. So I think it also helps staff to stay on track. So again, this is all about leadership. It's about, give those, the focus and direction, and then, we want people to stay on track and execute what needs to happen. There's no question we need to start adjusting some of our KPIs, and there are a lot of companies out there that have pivoted their business last year and created new positions and changed roles and stuff like that. And I think, if you haven't done it already, you need to do it, and that's adjusting those KPIs to the situation. An example there of what we just spoke about, COVID-19. And I think work on projects that will help support the business through difficult periods. So, so what's some, we've got at the moment, we've got all of our team, because we have to, they're all working from home. So, and that was a race, Allyson, on Friday, and, we'll having a bit of a laugh before, but you left stuff back at the office and you can't go in there and get it now. So we've got to start to improvise and make things happen. But I think just the importance of collaborating as a team and, doing those Zoom or Teams meetings with your team and just getting everybody on board. And I can't echo enough that importance of celebrating, the wins and the milestone achievements along the way of what we achieve. And, Allyson, you echo this all the time. It's all about how well you communicate. This will dictate the outcome. So, is there anything you want to elaborate on this slide?
I can't agree with you more, Cole, especially last year. And I think being in Victoria, Melbourne especially, we have been in lockdown more than all the other states. And then we had to find ways to keep motivating the team and finding new ways to collaborate and stuff. So like all other businesses, we had to learn on the fly, which is what you had to do because there was no other option. But then, you all become experts at Teams or Zoom meetings as well. But it's all about making sure that you keep that communication going as well, because when you're in the office, you don't realise that they're actually there. But when you're at home alone, you have to make that extra effort to keep that communication going. And it just helps the team feel like they're still working together rather than individually as well.
Yep, and I think if we always, big thing for me is we're always focused on those client outcomes, then that's a good way of doing it. And celebrating the milestone moments and wins. So have some fun. So I think that's the thing. Like that's what ways to have some fun. So we've just got to still do it. And I think last year, as a company, we tried to do things like little incentives every month for the team, flowers, 1 month balloons. We sent some gift vouchers because we bounced back, we had a good month, and some cakes, all that sort of stuff. Have some fun, drinks on a Friday night as a team together, all remotely, because for everyone's own mental well-being, I think you spend a third of your life at work, and they are family. That's how I look at it. We're a small business, so my team is my extended family, and we want to make sure that everyone's okay and we're having some fun. And I think if we share the moment with all staff and just be present on that. I think that alone just creates that motivation. I'm very big on acknowledging quality of work and creating projects, and let's work on this project, and it's quality of work, and we just do that shout out and acknowledge it. And then some of the things like that's personal, such as personal celebrations, birthdays, all goes back to the clear goals, and people know what you want them to do. So I don't know if anything you want to add to that, Allyson, but certainly we've had a few laughs in and out of the office over the last 12 months, and that's all you can do. I think that's what it's about. Laughter does, good laughter does break down the stress levels for a person.
I think it's good medicine too, because it was so stressful, and we weren't the only business that was stressed, but it was so stressful for everybody. You had to find a way to move past that as well. So I remember in some of our meetings we're wearing funny hats, and we just break the ice, and we would get together and talk about non-work things, just checking in with each other. But yeah, there were it was a crazy year for everybody, internationally, but yep. We definitely made sure that we made the time. I think that's the important thing, is you've got to make the time to make sure that you put aside some time to have some fun as well, because it yep. just breaks down all the stress as well. Yeah.
I think as this year moves forward, more so than ever, because we spoke about the cost of losing a staff member. We've really got to get back into businesses got to get back into that. Making sure that everyone is protected and their well-being is going well, and having some fun. So if I have a chat to you about engaging in team building activities and having fun, there's ways you can do this, and you can still do it remotely via a Teams or a Zoom meeting, but which we've done in the past. But business improvement sessions, and for those of you who are on this hookup, in December of last year, normally every quarter, what we like to do is shut our business down for a day and just work on our business, on how we as a team can become more efficient and effective and do things better. And we didn't have that privilege of doing that, but we did it in December, and we set some goals, and then we came back again in February, which was Monday of last week, and did another session around, well, okay, what can we do to go to the next level? And we've got some really good plans in place right now. I think, I always talk about creating that meaningful and exciting project. So it's got to be meaningful. There's no point doing a project if you don't have passionate people that want to do the project, I guess, what we're talking about. So it's really important that, and one of the things that I always talk about in a lot of the strategy stuff that I do is, staff, they've got to do meaningful work, because if it's not meaningful, then they're not engaged. So I think, making sure that if you're going to create a project, that it's meaningful and it's exciting and it's got a start and a finish time. And I think that's the thing why I like doing like a task or a project. We hear commonly lots of business go, oh, we need a change. So sometimes when you say the word change, you don't hear an end. But when we're creating something that's meaningful, I think it's really important. And then we've got our things that you can do, like, we did a bit of fun last year with some DISC personality profiling, keep that momentum up to help people feel good about their role and how their personalities work. I think, again, deliver goodies and, to employees, which I spoke about before, the drinks on a Friday, and don't forget the recognition of praise and the big shout out. So, which I think is important. So I've just got a question here from, how do you achieve this if the directors aren't on board? Well, that's a really interesting question that we've got, because, it's really interesting because I was working with some clients on Thursday and Friday of last year, and these business owners have been belted pretty hard, and a couple of them said that their directors are not engaged with the businesses anymore. And so I just asked the question to the team, as a group of emerging leaders, how have you actually reached out and asked the directors of the business, are they okay? Because there's a lot of responsibility that falls on us as owners. So we got to make sure our team are okay. But have we done that in reversed round, asking the directors if they are okay? So I think that's really, really important. That you reach out to the owners of the business, because this has been very, very difficult, very difficult time. And I'll just elaborate a little bit, for business owners out there, when the COVID hit last year, all of us, we had no choice. We deferred loan payments, business payments, home loan payments. We froze things with the ATO because we didn't know what was going to happen. So we all did that. And then we got JobKeeper, and a lot of people out there of employees think, well, because you got JobKeeper, you're okay. But I don't think that is the case at all, because we still have massive expenses in our business. And one of the things that sort of happened towards October of last year is, because of the 6 month freeze, is the banks now want their money back plus what was, what was put on hold. So there is a lot of pressure out there on business owners, and when things are going fine, it's great, but when things are not going fine, it's very, very difficult. So my answer to the question is, as staff should be asking the directors, are you okay? What can we do to improve? And I think sometimes, I talk about the act of love. You probably need to say to the owners that you're in jeopardy of losing a lot of people if you don't fall in love with your business or get back on board with your business. And if things are really, really stressful, then seek professional help. And I'll be more than happy to come in and help for the person who asked that question, because it's a lonely world being a business owner. And I always say you need to have two things. One is sheer determination. The other one is high resilience, how much you can take. And believe it or not, I can tell you, a lot of businesses out there, especially those B2B businesses, December, January, it's been a tough time. We're starting to get back on board now, but a lot of us have been belted around, and this 5-day freeze that's happened in Victoria is not helping any business owner out there from an emotional point of view. All right, so I hope I answered that question well, and you can give me the thumbs up or comment if you want to do that. But it is true, you've got to get, everyone's got to be on board, and that's part of motivation. The owners can't let their guard down to their team, and we want our team to be with us on the journey. Okay, so Allyson, our topic 3 is getting the balance right with your staff, with working from home and in the office. And this has been, our phones have ignited at the start of this year. Is how do I get our team back to work? And I think one of the things we've got to accept is there is a new way that we are going to be doing business for 2021. So your obligations as an employer with staff returning back to the office, if you could take us through this, that would be fantastic.
Sure. So we've listed down here that the steps the business needs to take to maintain social distancing within the workplace. So obviously, depending on how big your workplace is, you need to follow the guidelines that which change on a regular basis. Highly recommend you reaching out to the DHHS, which will have an up-to-date guidelines for you. Personal hygiene and infection control. Make sure you've got enough hand sanitizer and liquid soap, etc., etc. Do you have posters around the workplace outlining how, as crazy as it sounds, how to wash your hands for 20 seconds and making sure that people are doing the right thing and wearing their masks? In Victoria anyway, right now, as soon as we leave our homes, not that we're allowed to go anywhere, but you must wear a mask even outside right at this point in time. So you've got to make sure you do the right thing. But even before that, we had to wear masks again back in the workplace as of last week as well, because of the daily changing cases that were coming through. So record keeping and contact tracing, this speaks for itself. Obviously, make sure you know who was in the office at that particular time in case there was a positive case that came through your workplace. Temperature checks, this is something we do every morning. So we have a machine. We used to have a little scanner, but now we've got a machine, and it just takes our temperature check as soon as we walk in the door. And obviously, you don't have to have something as elaborate as that. You can just have a thermometer, a digital one, and then if someone was obviously not well, then you can send them home straight away and reduce your risk to the health and safety of the rest of your team as well. Check in on your employees' mental health, and obviously, I think this is probably the most critical out of all of the things. Especially last year, it was so traumatic for so many people. And don't underestimate that trauma. I'm sure there's still people that are still feeling the effects of it. Just keep checking in and see if what else you can do. Based on that, it's always good to have a mental health first aider, not just a physical first aider in your business. So if you haven't looked into that, maybe have a look at that as well. Educate and demonstrate your team that you've put everything in place for them to safely return back to the workplace. This will remove a lot of anxiety from people if they think that you've done everything possible to make sure that they're going to be safe. They'll be more inclined to return to work as well, and have a safe return plan as well. Make sure that everyone is on the same page, and then make sure that that is followed through as well.
And that could be simple things like split rosters, or you know, like what we do. We have our admin team that are working in our office when we can, and then for the consultants who are out, well, they're out and about in our clients' businesses. So, you know, they come in and, you know, random times. So we just make sure that we've got the, you know, that right balance right. There's a couple of things I want to add to what you just said, Allyson. So, you know, one of our clients called Bloomfield Technology, they brought in some devices that actually will do temperature scanning on person. So you can actually register your team to the software, and so when it comes in, it recognizes who I am, does a temperature check, and it records it. But also, you know, if someone comes in who's a cleaner or a delivery driver or you know, water or whatever it may be, office supplies, you know, they can't get past our front door unless they've looked into it. So I look at that as yes, it was expensive, and I did it because you know, it's one of our clients, but it also demonstrates that, you know, I want our team to come back, and we've put all the safety measures in place. So, you know, cleaners come in on a weekend, and my team is not there. So who does temperature checking when that happens? So if there's alarms and stuff like that, I can get, you know, notified that there's someone coming in a high temperature. So I think it's just a better way of doing things. The other thing I want to talk about is acceptance. So I rang a wonderful employee of ours, Sarah, just before, and, you know, so we're in lockdown, and she's got 3 kids, young kids, working from home, and I know she was trying her hardest to have a conversation with me, but the background noise is of the kids trying to do their homeschooling. It was just, I can just say it was a mess, right? Now, a business owner's got 2 choices, right? They can accept that and go, well, that's just the way it is, or they can get angry and they can, if I use it, you know, lose their cool a bit or crack the shits because things are not working for them. There's just 2 ways you've got to accept it. Now, I know, you know, her voice, I could tell that because, you know, we're a good company, culture's really, really strong. She's trying, right? I just know, but come 5 o'clock by the end of that, she will be wrecked, right? Absolutely wrecked. And I know that when she comes back to the office, I'm going to get more from her because of that acceptance of just accepting what it is. So if there was something, and what I wanted to talk to her wasn't urgent. It was just, you know, do a check-in, how are you? And we've got a couple of projects on the go, but I could just tell that she answered all the questions fine, the whole lot, but just the background noise. And it happens. This is what we live with now. And I just want to put it out there. It's whether, as an employer, you just have to, or a manager, you've got to accept it. If you've got good culture, you know you're going to get that back. You know, tenfold when kids go back to school. Now, if you've got an employee who's not on board, not engaged in the business, and not motivated, then that might be a different thing. And probably the employee wouldn't take the call in the first place. But I just want to put that out there. There is a bit of acceptance of us.
Sorry, I think it's also important to bring up right at this point as well. Check your modern award as well, because a lot of the modern awards have been amended with temporary measures to cover for employees with exactly this scenario. So what they've done is, and you'll have to check the awards that are relevant to your business in particular, but Fair Work have put in temporary clauses in there to amend the ordinary working hours. So for example, if an award had ordinary hours between the hours of 7 a.m. and 6 p.m, just for an example, this temporary clause will allow that employee to work outside those hours without the employer having to pay penalty rates. So just check in with your staff and make sure if they can't work during the day, and exactly, I mean, this Sarah is a prime example. She's got 3 young kids, and that would be very difficult to have to work at home with, then they do have that option to work outside of those hours as well. It just removes that pressure from them and the stress from them, and it just gives them that extra security that the business is doing what it can do to help make sure that they can do everything that they feel obliged to do whilst they're at home as well.
Yep. And that's just all about teamwork and supporting your team. So, yeah. Okay, ways to encourage staff to return back to the office. So, Allyson, this has been a big topic. That's why we've done this this webinar, because it's such a hot topic. But if you could take us through this, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, sure. This has been the hot question all year. Many employers are desperate for their employees to come back. So what do you do when someone doesn't want to come back? And we've already mentioned, if you've got a great team of communication, the staff will want to come back. Stay proactive to keep your employees informed around return to work safety concerns, for example, as we've said, temperature checks, sanitisers, paper towels, etc. And open and honest communication. And I think it also goes a bit deeper than that. If they don't want to come back, they might need some more time to transition. It's been 12 months almost now. If they've been working from home that entire time, they might have some anxiety about coming back. And that's where you make sure that you show that you've done everything to help them come back safely. And even, if you've got a sort of rostering system, if you can't have all staff come back at the same time, organise a rostering system and just transition it back. So don't expect it overnight, but I would put a transition into place and then help work with that employee or those employees to help them feel more comfortable in wanting to return as well, and make it fun. Like this is what we were saying earlier, as Colin was saying, make it fun and make sure that they know that the business has done everything it can as well.
I think the other thing too is I just want to put it out there. If I had my whole team in our office and we go through the 1.5 metre rule, we've all got to be spread out. And if I say my office is not designed that way, so we've had to do things. But I think one of the things that happened, which we did last year, is we got the whole team together in December, early December, for a business improvement workshop that I spoke about before. And one of the things that come out of that is people just re-engage with other people. It's like you haven't seen your family in such a long time, because I was a mayor in our business. I hadn't seen her for 6 months. So it's just weird, just a totally weird feeling. But I think if somehow you can get the team together, then I think, sometimes people forget, oh, this is the way it was, I want to come back. Allyson, I've got a couple of questions for you and just throw you on the bus a little bit. But, I know that, what's happened with this pandemic, I know there's a couple of our clients where the staff members thought, well, you know what, this is the way the world's going to be now. And they've moved from their area of, they can travel to work every day, to a regional area where they're prepared to come in 1 or 2 days a week. So, what's your tip on how to have a conversation around that?
Oh, that's a good question. So I would imagine, I'm just going to say, if someone's in a metropolitan area and they may have moved regional, I mean, we've heard over the news and media last 6 months that so many people have done that. The role itself was based at a certain location to begin with, so you just have to be mindful of that. But I think the last year has shown many businesses that employees can work from home, and you've got to work out whether you can continue having that particular position staying at home, or if it's, I think that's what you need to do. You need to work out whether it's a position that doesn't necessarily have to come into the office at all or on a regular basis, or if they can adjust the position itself and then have that person check in on a random basis, whether it's once a month or once a quarter, I'm not sure. But back in the position when they were employed, and hopefully your contracts say this as well, you're employed to work at a certain location. So obviously the working from home was a temporary thing, but I think Fair Work would argue that it has been proven to be successful, and most businesses found that they were surprised. It was a moral and productivity increaser for all of their staff as well. So I think you've got to weigh up all of the facts before you make a decision and work out what what is best for that particular position, and then go from there.
I think, one of the things I've had this conversation, I've used yourself and Maya on, because many of these conversations is, if there's going to be a company, team meeting or an exec meeting or something like that, then, there's a requirement that we need you there to collaborate with the team. But it's a real tough one. And again, the client who rang me, he's got a fuse, it's very, very small. So I've just sort of said to him, listen, before you react to a reaction, because this particular owner put an email out and sort of said, right, January's here, I expect everyone back at the office come 1st of January, and all of a sudden the email started coming through saying, well, I now live in Castlemaine, I'm not coming, I'm going to work from home. And in his mind, well, hang on, you've chosen to go and move there, yet that's not what's good for the business. So again, if anyone on this webinar has got situations like that, I'd recommend you think it through and give us a call if let's make sure you do some due diligence first before you react to a reaction. And if you sack somebody on the spot, then, we spoke about before, an unfair dismissal or an adverse action claim. Well, it would be an adverse action claim because they've got rid of me because I've moved. So if it's not done right. So I just want to make sure everyone's there. Okay, setting up a framework around working from home and in the office. So Allyson, do you want to take us through this, please?
Yeah, sure. Our key points on this particular slide is focus on personal results over processes. So basically, don't worry about the processes as much, just worry about the outcome at this particular time. Consider having your admin team return to the office. As Colin said, our admin team have returned to the office more than the HR team, so we can continue to going on site to see our clients. And functionality, comfort and safety. So I think that speaks for itself as well.
Yep. Yeah, the other thing too is that, is that setup, making sure that they got the proper setup from home working, they're not sitting on the lounge laying back, again, during COVID, when it hit, all of us business owners had to go out and invest in more hardware, computer hardware, laptops and monitors and stuff like that to allow that to happen. So it's really, really important. Okay, now I want to talk some really good positive stuff, and what we have spoken about has been positive. So it's that acceptance of people working from home and trying to and getting that balance right. But the importance of staff development. So setting that benchmark with staff training. And again, I love training. This is what I'm all about, and love what I do. But I think during COVID, one of the things that happens is systems and processes will have changed, and staff may have not received any training. And last Monday we had as I said, a day out, and I can't do it in the office, so we do it at the Hyatt at Essendon Fields. But we brought in somebody with time management experience to give us some training, and it's not my voice, it's bringing in a third party. And the whole goal of that was to get people to think how to become more effective and more efficient with the way they do. And it was a massive motivator. And in our startup meeting this morning with the team, our team meeting, everyone referred that what they've done to get time back and to become more efficient. I think if with training, well, okay, we can train the trainer or create a training course or get a trainer facilitator in. I love training; it's what I do. Whatever you need, whatever the business needs, I think is important to sit back and go, right, this is what our business needs to be successful. And again, we talked about the cost of staff turnover. I look at it, if you don't invest in your team, you don't invest in some training, then, basically you haven't got that momentum going in your business. And, staff can train other staff as well. And that's one of the things we have seen of COVID, where people need to be cross-trained because of, that person's not sitting next to me in the office anymore. So we've got to create some training programs. And, like us and many other businesses, we recruited during COVID. So doing induction training was a real eye-opener for doing remote training. So I think that's a big thing. So it is all about, the upskill. How do we, continue on? 2021, we want our team to be more skilled, more motivated to execute what we want to do. So again, that mental health first aid, that mental health is really important. And last year, my whole HR team asked for some mental health training, first aid training, because of the pandemic and what so many business clients and their staff had reached out to us. So I made sure that actually happened for our team. And I think providing some mentoring as well, I think is really, really important. So, and you know, to the person that asked me the question, what do you do if the business owners are not engaged? Right now, more so than anything, they need somebody that can help and coach and mentor them to get through the situation that we're currently in. Is there anything you want to add to this, Allyson?
I was just going to say the mental health first aid training was such an awesome thing for us to receive, because we had right from February onwards so many troubled employers with our clients, and we had to deal with that on a day-to-day basis. So for us to be able to know, it just gave us that extra skill on how to help support them as well, which I think we kind of knew what to say, but sometimes you didn't. So it just gave that extra element for us to be able to support our clients as well. So it was an eye opener, that's for sure.
Yeah. And I think, look, you know, it is, and it's a motivator. For me, that's a motivator. So it's a bit of staff training is a motivator and just a bit of reassurance. And again, I think, you know, we have three choices with the situation we're in. We can retreat, we can stay and do nothing, or we can just move ahead and move forward and keep attacking it. And I think that's what's in nature, that's in my blood, is just to keep attacking what's out there, because there are opportunities out there. You might have to work a bit harder for it, but you know, and your team, I know my team are working hard. I know that they're working hard, and I've given them some mental wellbeing days off because of that. So I think it's really important. It's, you know, it's getting your staff to the next level. It's that upskilling. You know, this will help with staff retention. If you do nothing, then you put your team in jeopardy. You can do things like a skills assessment. So let's have a look. What do we need in the business? Do a skills assessment on your team. Get them to rate themselves, and then, you know, maybe their manager rate them and think, what can we do to improve? You know, that cross training to become, you know, better at performance. So I think, again, that's that backup plan. I talked about, you know, Stephanie, who has moved on, and you know, I cried a lot when the day that she was leaving, because 7 years it was been fantastic, but I wish her very, very well, and I understand. I think that's the thing. But the cross training that we've done in this business and the depth that I've got within the whole HR team, her leaving is not going to really financially impact our business. Where I can see other businesses, when someone is a quality staff member who leaves because there is no depth or backup plan, then that becomes very, very dangerous. It's very hard when you have a very small business, but that's the thing that, you know, you just got to keep moving forward. And again, you know, during COVID, you know, a lot of businesses fell off the rails when it comes to doing things like having those performance conversations or doing reviews. We still continued it on. We still recommended all our clients to keep going, because, you know, I always find that when I do performance reviews with my staff, then, you know, that's where we set some goals and objectives for some training, and then it's up to me to make sure that I execute that. And you know, during COVID, you know, I had a huge success with a lot of small businesses saying, you know what, we want to keep some of our staff motivated. So could you, we run an emerging leaders program. So this is future, you know, building future depth within the business to try and get those upcoming motivated starters to the point where, you know, they could manage a team, because lots of companies have had lots of change. And the next thing for me is around setting, you know, that expectations and reward from training conducted. So, you know, so what do you want to do regarding rewards? So, you know, so again, Allyson, what are some of your tips on that?
I think the business, again, it depends on how big it is as well, but it doesn't always have to be monetary rewards, but, you know, work out whether you can put some plans in place and have some fun as well, but be consistent as well. Don't just do a one-off and then ignore your staff, not check in with them for the next 3 weeks. You've got to be consistent and make sure that you continue on where you start as well. I think that's quite critical. A higher turnover of staff can get you into trouble, especially when you've got a learner training another learner. And then if you've got staff who are leaving and then you've got a new person, then someone else has left, you've only got the new person left, they're going to have to do that training, and you can bet your bottom dollar that they're going to miss a lot of what is essential to training, because they don't know it themselves as well. So make sure that you've got your staff under control, and accept, as it says, set those expectations and reward as well. So.
Yep, and look, I think induction trainings are setting up induction plans and stuff like that. So if someone does leave and we've got a small business, that we've got something to go to try and help them. All right, my last topic is, and we just spoke about before, but the value of performance discussions and incentives. So it's really important that we're having these discussions to keep your team moving forward. And so that's all. This is all about understanding, for me, why performance discussions are so important. And it's not a one-way street. It's a two-way street. It's collaborative. We've got to make sure that we're having these performance discussions. And I'm very big on asking. I always say that 80–90% of the problems that lie within the business are actually people know how to fix it within the business. It's just about extracting that. So when you're having some sort of performance discussion or performance coaching session, you're asking questions as well to try and get that information. And then obviously you prepare your notes and an agenda of what you actually want to achieve. And I think today we can reflect on the past, and in this webinar we've spoken about the past because it's easy to draw from that, but we've really got to focus on the future. What does the next 3 to 6 months look like? And we've got to make sure that it happens. And if you've got staff who are underperforming, the saying that my HR team always use, Allyson, is if it's not noted, then it didn't happen. And I just can't echo enough that if you've got some issues within your company and some people are letting the team down or not performing, then we're just got to make sure you're having those quality performance discussions. And again, keeping them professional and following what I call HR best practice. The value of staff incentives and how they work. Well, some of the things that we're going to sit back is it a key motivator? So some of the key things that comes out of a key motivator, it will challenge employees to upskill. If you've got some good incentives to actually do that, it'll boost performance levels and it will increase staff retention. And Allyson, this is something I think we did very, very well as a company last year. Throughout the whole year of just creating this motivation that as a leader I got up and said that no one will go back to 4 days a week or 3 days a week. This is what we need to do. Just please follow my leadership, and this is what we're going to do to get through. And knowing that a lot of my team in our company, their partners were stood down to 3 days a week or just the minimum hours of JobKeeper, I think we did a good job of that.
100%, but it comes from the top as well. So even before any of us could even offer to reduce our hours, and I think we all did at some point in time, Colin stood up right from the get-go, and he was a true leader. He said, okay, this is what we're going to do, just follow me, and that's exactly what we did, and we got through. So you need to make sure that you lead your staff as well. Don't just leave them in the dark, because we've had some clients who've done just that, and they've had a lot of disconnect from the employees as well. So again, one of our other mantras is honest, open communication, because the more open and honest you are, the more you're going to make sure that the employees still have a connection to what you're saying as well.
One thing you can't do as a business owner is cry poor and then go and buy yourself a fast splash car or a boat or something like that, which one of our clients has done, gone out and bought himself a nice boat, upgraded their boat from a $100,000 boat to a $300,000 boat, and that did not go down well when he showed everyone. So you know what, you've just got to make sure that you're open and honest, as you said. So Allyson, what should I do if staff are underperforming and not meeting the expectation?
Okay, the first one is critical. Ignore at your peril. If you've got staff who are underperforming and not meeting your expectations, if you don't follow through on that, then it doesn't just go away. You can't be an ostrich and put your head in the sand. You must deal with it. And the sooner you deal with it, the less big of a deal it becomes. But if you do ignore it, it gets out of control. And that's where you can find yourself at Fair Work before you know it. So never ignore it is the first thing we say. Establish best practice as well. Make sure that you've got systems in place to make sure that you process and follow up on underperforming, but do it in the right way as well. There's a right way and then there's a wrong way. Identify the problem, work out what is going on and why is it going on. Is that particular employee being, not being treated well by other employees or their manager? So get to the bottom of it as well. Meet the employee and discuss and agree to a solution. It might be that they've had something going on, but they have recognised that they've underperformed, but they want to improve, and then you can agree on a solution. And that could be anything from just a follow-up in a couple of weeks' time to check in on their progress, to then monitoring their performance and having a performance plan moving forward as well. So there's lots of things you can do before you go, you know what, it's too hard, we're going to terminate you. Don't start with termination. That would be the last resort, especially right now when you've got staff, you want to try and keep all your staff. So that would be my recommendation.
Yeah, now I've got a real cracker of a question that's come through. So questions come through that can you, with this current lockdown we've got in Victoria, can you make staff take mandatory annual leave if they can't work? No,
you may not. Under the lockdown, it's a government directive. That would be unpaid leave. However, having said that, you can allow them to use their annual leave if they request, but you cannot dictate to them that they have to. So if they don't want to, it will be unpaid leave. You cannot force them to use their annual leave. If you've got staff with excessive leave, again, check your modern award because all of them are different, or if you're on an EBA, if they've got excessive, in most cases that's more than 2 years worth, so 8 weeks, you would need to give written notice to the employee to take some leave, and that's normally, I think it's 4 weeks notice that they must be provided. So be mindful that you cannot force your staff to take annual leave during the lockdown, no.
I think it comes back to also to how you pitch the conversation. So look, during the lockdown, because you can't work and we're not on not on JobKeeper or anything like that, then it's unpaid leave, and then if you've got really good relationship with the staff member, the staff member might ask, well, what are some other options, and you can sort of hint that. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, Allyson, but
you can actually.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was just going to say, you can have an open and honest conversation with them and say, look, if you would like to use your leave, you can have that conversation. You can say, would you like to use your leave, your annual leave?
Yeah.
You can have that conversation, but you can't say, well, you will be on annual leave. No.
Yeah. Okay. Beautiful. All right. So I hope you enjoyed our webinar, and we've got a whole heap of HR documents and checklists that you can go to our website and you can download those. And obviously, one of the things that a lot of companies are asking for is that that checklist again for staff working from home, or how can I get them back to work, and that's all on our website. You can follow this link and away we go. If you have any questions from the webinar that we've done today, then feel free to contact us on 1300 for advice or email us, and we've got a lot of supporting material during the pandemic of COVID-19. You'll see the moment on our website, and then you can feel free to book a 15-minute free chat with myself or even Allyson or any of the HR team. It's all there on the website, which is done through Calendly, but just give me an email if that's easier, or a phone call. I just want to highlight a couple of webinars that are up and coming. So Thursday, the 25th of February, I'm doing a collaboration webinar again because I like it. I think it's more interactive when you have two people on a webinar. But the City of Moonee Valley have asked myself and Director Mark Said from MKS Group to do a joint collaboration webinar, which we did throughout the pandemic last year. And then I've got another webinar. So the KBA webinar next one is on the 15th of March, which engages staff to follow company processes, because that's a big thing that I've seen so many businesses wanting to do is people not following the process. So I think that's this is we keep doing these free webinars. It is a way of just keeping that motivation going and that reassurance. thank you very much for being part of our webinar today. We really enjoy what we do, and we're always there to help our clients. So feel free to reach out if you're in trouble. So that concludes the webinar. I want to thank you, Allyson, because it's always good. I love doing it with with the team. It just shows that good team collaboration. So thanks very much.
Welcome.
This concludes the webinar. Thank you.